Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Nathan's 3D Factory. In this episode we're going to continue what we did last week, and that is doing a dial sign, okay? So, right now what I have is I have my previously modeled objects, right? I have my legs and my drum. And this one I decided to call display, so I kind of did some off-camera stuff, okay? So that was where I decided to rename this as display. This is leg.r, leg.l, okay? Now, I have some remodeling I have to do as well. So on this, you'll see that I did that grid fill. I tried that again, and it wasn't so good, okay? So I ended up like doing a couple of things just to modify this, because when I put the solidify modifier, it wasn't so awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this all just an n-gon for the moment. And then we can fix that right after we're done with this, okay? So this is much more complex geometry, I can say that. And so a little bit harder than the usual that I do, right? But nonetheless, we're going to make this work. So now that we have that, I want to do an even thickness on this. So now you notice that we don't have weird stuff. Even thickness doesn't always work, but it usually does, okay? So next thing I want to do is that I want to take this and inset, okay? So I'm going to go inset 3. So, and then I want to take another one where I'm going to make it even with this hole. I'm not going to use it as a hole, but you know what I'm going to do? I am going to make it so that at least it's something that we can refer off of for when we solidify this finally. Okay? So, then what I'm going to do is inset. And then I'm also going to, I'm not going to worry about the inset distance for the moment. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to get my move, rotate, and scale to snap. And then I'm going to change from 3D cursor to median point. I'm going to do S, Shift X, and then it's going to snap exactly to that circle right on the other side, okay? And now we have something that we can work with here. And then I'm going to do the grid fill here because I'm satisfied with this. Actually, I shouldn't say that yet. I'll do that after I've applied the modifier here, okay? I want to keep this as an n-gon. So next thing I want to do is that I want to say solidify. We're going to apply that modifier. I saved the previous version, so in case if something happens that it goes upside down on this, I've got that to refer back to. Always do that. Do versioning. It's really good. I'm not the best at it, so I got to really work on that. Okay, so now you notice that the edges, they're starting to curve on here, okay? So we're going to turn this off for the moment, and we're going to put some creases on these. Okay, so I'm going to go to my edge select mode. Shift E, 1. And now if I tab out, turn that back on, now you can see that it doesn't have those weird kind of wraparound artifacts going on now. Now it's just fine. Okay, so now that that's done, what I want to do is I want to have a slot where I can go and I can stick the stick in, right? And to do that, I'm actually going to kind of take this and I'm going to make a little like I don't know what you'd call it, but like it's a little like a little peg hole right here or something, I guess you could say. So we'll take that. Okay. And then I'm going to go back into face select, alt select that, and then I'm going to extrude along the X, take it out 3. Okay. Let's see. Somehow that didn't come out quite right. Let's try that again. EX3. Let's see how that... Okay, so it's probably... I don't know what that is. I want to put that on wireframe. So... Okay. So one thing I'm not understanding right now is why is this... I may have an answer for this. Okay, so if I do Shift E1, it's kind of weird because, like, okay, that worked better. Okay, so it wasn't quite showing the edges as I wanted it, and I think that might be because I did this. Okay, so if I take that off, then that doesn't do weird stuff with what I'm trying to see visually. Okay, so now, if I take that back into solid, okay, there we go. Better. Okay, that makes sense as to why it was doing that weird stuff with that extrusion. Okay, so now we have that all set up. We have just kind of like a little space where the slot can go. And I do want to make this a locking mechanism. So in a little bit, we're going to do that. Okay. Or rather just something where we kind of have a slot where we can have the drum fit exactly. Okay, so then next things that we need a drum that's going to have the messages of free or busy on them. And then after the drum, we'll do the stick that's going to go into that. And then the final thing will be the dial. So, drum will be next. And in fact, what I want to do is I want to do cursor to selected on this. Okay, that's better. Now I'll get a basic shape for the drum. So it'll be another cylinder. So this cylinder right here. Oh, and you'll also see that this has a 90-degree rotation. I don't want that. So I'm going to do Control A. I'm going to do rotation. Now it's at 0. Okay, so all these are at zeros. All right, so that should be good. So now, I want to take a look at the inside of this scale here before I continue here, okay? So to do that, what I can do is I can take all these vertices out on the outside, 3 for face select, and hide those. I just want to see the inside, okay? Not quite there. Okay. We'll hide those. Now I can press L and hide those. So, you may remember I also said that I might have some things I have to clean up on this, and I do. Okay, because you'll notice as well, I've got some non-manifold edges, and we're going to want to clean those up too. So those are going to be really important to get cleaned up. So I'm going to actually press 2 for edge select, X edge loops. And I got one more here, because it's not totally cleaned up yet. Okay, So that cleans that up. So sometimes the solidify doesn't get totally trustworthy results. That's why you need to do cleanups like this, right? Okay, so that one was just fine. So that's another thing that I do a lot, is just testing to make sure that my stuff actually applies correctly. Okay, so now we have, let's go back to here. And then I'm going to press the control to get my shortest edge path, or face path, I guess you could say. Okay. Got that. And I just want those inside vertices on this. Okay, I'm going to hide those faces. Okay, now we have this. I can focus on how much I have to put in for a distance on this. So now I'm going to take my distance or measure tool. Now I want to get the innermost vertices on this. Okay, so I see 33 on this. So let's X that. So if that's 33 for that, I want to have a 30 millimeter drum on this. So that'll give me 1.5 millimeters on each side. I may even do smaller than that, just so that I have plenty of room for it to move. Because depending on your printer that you're going to be using, there may be varying tolerances on this. Mine gets some pretty good tight tolerances, but I do want to have room for this to move around. Okay. So the drum itself is going to have plenty of wiggle room on this. So I think I may actually take this to 28 for the drum size. And then on this, 7.8 is what I'm seeing. And let's make sure that we actually have this measuring from one vertex to the other on the same plane, which it looks like we do. Okay. So now that we have that, we're going to say a 28 millimeter, so 14 millimeter radius, I should say. And then as far as the width, I have to get from here all the way to somewhere over here, right? So, and we said that this was a 3 millimeter space right here. Yeah, that's 3 millimeters. It says 3 meters, but on the print bed, it's going to go to 3 millimeters. Okay. So we take that distance and put it into account. Undo that. Okay, so we're seeing 74 right here. And we take out that 3, that's 71. So 71 is going to be to this spot right here. So what I want to do here then is I want to have this to about, let's say, 68, I think, is what I want to do on this. So now, give it a little bit more wiggle room that way. So let's go ahead and add. Oops, not plane. All right. Cylinder. Okay, we'll say 14 for the radius on this. And we said 68. And I want to rotate this along the y-axis 90 degrees. And I realize I'm doing this in edit mode, but that's all right. Okay. Okay, so I see a little bit of overlap over here. but I also see space over here, so I'm going to want to move it over. So GX2 So, but I have learned that tight spaces really do make it so that it like fits together extremely tight. So I want to make sure it's not too tight because otherwise it's going to be seizing, you know? So I'm going to take another measurement here. Okay, that's 1 millimeter. Try and delete that measurement. I like to have them just for a moment. There we go. That got it. Those measurement tools can be a little tricky. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, so I tabbed out of edit mode there for a moment. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now I want to take a look and see as well. This other thing here. So, I want to make sure that we're not getting too much play here. It's also not an accurate distance on that. So, anyway. Um, so I said that that was 28, and this is like 33, I think, on that. So I could scale that up again on that. So, and I think I may want to do that a little bit. So, go back into here. So S, not X. Okay. So, look at that a little bit again. Okay. Looks a little better. One thing I've also learned, though, about doing 3D modeling is that some of these spaces can look incredibly large, but that can be very deceptive as well. So that's something to keep in mind as you're doing 3D modeling, because as you zoom into these spaces, it's like, whoa, that's huge. How did I do that? I better tighten that up, and then you realize you got too tight when you do the real 3D print. So that's something else that I've learned. So anyway, I'm rambling. So what I want to do next is that I want to take a piece that goes slicing right through that drum, okay? And we're going to have it so that it's going to be the same size as this hole and this hole over here. And then that way we have a kind of like a guideway for our rod to go through, right? So that's our next piece then, is that make that. Okay, so we're going to inset that. And then S, not X. There we go. All right. So now that we have that whole reference, what we can do is that we can turn off these outside vertices for a moment. Hide that. Inset, doesn't matter how much. S, not X. It'll snap to that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take these two Okay. Control E, bridge edge loops. And then we got a nice clean tunnel there that we can stick that rod through. Okay. So now we have the drum that we can start that on. And I'm going to stop right here for now. And I'm going to do just unhide all those vertices just to show us some progress here, okay? So on our next episode, what we'll do is that we'll alter this drum so that we have the sign, and then we'll also add the rod, and we'll include that dial as well, so that we can start playing with those, right? And then we should be able to finalize that on our next episode. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. So let me know what you thought of this episode. I know there's a lot of stuff, and I appreciate you going through and watching this with me. And thank you so much for watching this episode of Nathan's 3D Factory. Have a great day, guys.